NASCAR kicked off its 2019 playoffs at the Las Vegas Motor Speedway, and after the race and during the race, there were a lot of temper, some action happening all throughout the race, and leaving drivers unhappy with each other, with lap cars, with different stuff, you name it. It was an interesting race for sure. So, to kick off the race, basically, Stewart-Haas Racing had the fastest 4 cars in qualifying. They qualified 1, 2, 3, 4. The big story, though, was that they trimmed their cars out, meaning that the cars were fast down the straightaways, they had some great straight line speed, but they wouldn't handle as well, which would be bad in the heat of the beginning of the race. If they could make it through stage 1, all right. Stage 2 and stage 3 would be better because the sun would be going down. Track would be getting more grip because there would be more shade on the racetrack and whatnot. So that comes into play a little bit later in the race. So early on, I think it was Almirola jumped out to the lead along with Suarez. They got out to first and second, and Stewart-Haas Racing kind of held the front 4 positions until Joey Logano and his team Penske Ford came flying forward. So for Logano, he qualified back, I think it was like 22nd or something. He was outside the top 20 where he qualified. Most of the reason for that was his car was not as trimmed out as most of the drivers in front of him. His car was more focused on handling aspect and how the car would handle during the daytime sun and whatnot, rather than, trimming the car out, making it fast, but also very crazy out of control. So Logano quickly came through the field with some good tires and tire management because his car, of course, he didn't have to drive as hard. He came through the field and led, and in fact, he won stage number 1 after starting back in like 22nd or something. So very impressive for Joey Logano to go up and pass like 20 cars to get the stage 1 victory. He pretty much dominated stage 1. He had like a 6 or 7 second lead at one point. Very crazy. Stage 1 yellow comes out. During stage 1, there were some issues though. Kyle Busch, early on lap number 6, he hit the wall. He was driving the car too hard, hit the wall off turn number 2, which then resulted in him having to go down pit road. He lost a lap to the race leaders. So for Kyle Busch, it has been a season of feast or famine for him. He can perform well when he's level-headed. When he gets over the top angry and loses his mind, he really loses his mind, especially this season. I feel like this season, the seasons prior, he's been able to keep his calm a little bit more, and he's been, kind of, calm and temper, and he hasn't had much of a temper. He's been very, calm-mannered throughout the whole season. But this season, for some reason, I don't know if it's because of the package and stuff like that, but he has been on the edge the whole season. Like, he has not had a race where he hasn't been mad at someone or something. Just think about, some of the races where he's been mad and the races where he's done poorly. Just think of Kansas and Chicagoland, where he got, tire rubs because of moves he made on restarts, where, he just he didn't need to make those moves. They were just too aggressive and they were pretty stupid, and it gave him tire rubs, and he ended up finishing, outside the top 20. At Pocono, the second Pocono race, some bad pit strategy led him to get a little frustrated. He tried to drive the car harder than he needed to drive it. It's just been a season where, even though he's gotten the most top 10s during the season, he's been definitely the dominant car of the season. If he doesn't control his temper throughout the playoffs, he could be eliminated and maybe not even make it to Homestead, because he has kind of regressed a little bit. I think he's back to around what I would say 2012, 2011 Kyle Busch was like. And not that bad, not as bad as that, but he's kind of regressed back from, from 2018, 2017 Kyle Busch, which was kind of calm and, temper free, to now like kind of what Kurt was like back in 2011, where he was kind of brushing off reporters and telling reporters off and driving in over his head and yelling at his crew and just being mad out on the racetrack. Kyle Busch has really been like that this season. In fact, we'll get to that a little bit later on, how mad he was at the end of Las Vegas. Some more storylines throughout the race. Eric Jones, another playoff driver with issues on the 20 car on a restart. I think it might have been the restart for stage 3, but he went to shift and it got stuck in second gear, I think is what it was. So he had to go to the garage. He fell like 15 laps down, came back out to the racetrack, but that really ruined any chance of him getting points, and he's actually below the cut line now by a good margin. He's going to need either great results at Richmond and the Roval, or he's going to need to win one of the 2 races. Another driver that had problems all throughout the night, Clint Boyer. Clint Boyer started inside the top 4, but all throughout the race steadily dropped down the ranking. He finished, I think, if he wasn't outside the top 20, it was pretty damn close to being outside the top 20. For Boyer, he had a miserable miserable day after starting inside the top 4, and he's below the cut line by a good margin as well, so he's going to need to perform well and or win the next few races. Kurt Busch had issues here. So on the restart, on most of the restarts throughout the race, especially the late ones, the stage number 3 restart and then the restart after Byron's spin, there was some contact being made. In fact, I'm going to talk about Byron's spin first because it happened first. On some restarts, cars got together and made contact. Ryan Blaney tried to side draft William Byron because that's what you do with this package. If you side draft the guy, that side draft goes a long way. They made contact. They hate each other. It didn't seem like much. It's just slight contact, but the way they hit and where they hit, whatever, it caused a left rear tire rub on William Byron's car. They were like, hey, it might just, it might be good to stay out there. And then he blew a tire in 3 and 4, spun around. Amazingly kept it off of the wall and anyone else coming by him. He got down to pit road, didn't lose a lap because of his teammate Chase Elliott. So at the point, Chase Elliott was leading the race, and he slowed down, seeing the 24 come off pit road. He slowed down, slamming on the brakes, and kind of went below pace speed. Joey Logano went to go around the outside of the 9 car, but then decided to back off and not do that, and it kept the 24 on the lead lap. So very interesting as to why Joey Logano did not decide, hey, I'm going to blind by, just kind of blow by the 9 car, because he slowed down. He went below pace speed, but kept William Byron on the lead lap, and that ended up for Willie B to get a top 10 finish out of the night. So not too bad for the playoff rookie, I guess. And then on the next restart after that, Kurt Busch and Chase Elliott got together as they were going 4 wide. Martin Truex Jr. made a 4 wide move. As everyone's trying to get to the middle, everyone's trying to move out of line and just make some spots up. That's what this package is, once again. Very aggressive on restarts. And Kurt Busch, Truex made some contact. Cars got tire rubs. Kurt and Chase had tire rubs. Joey Logano, as they were coming off turn 2, got pinched into the wall by Daniel Suarez, which then got Kyle Larson some front end damage. Logano had very heavy right side damage. They got into it with, I believe, Chris Buescher. They made some contact. Logano had all sorts of damage to the 22 car. I mean, the car looked junk throughout the race. And then up ahead, Chase Elliott, Kurt Busch, their tires were rubbing. Kurt was called into pit road, but it was a little too late. As he was called into pit road, he blew the tire in 3 and 4, went apart into the outside wall, and it ended his night early. So Kurt Busch is now below the cutoff, which is miserable for Kurt because he has had a decently good season. He's been like top 6, top 7 in points. He definitely deserves to be into the round of 8. The problem is he might not make it there because of one bad race in Las Vegas starting him off. Luckily for him, he got the playoff points for being inside the top 10 points. He also had the playoff points for his win. He also got some stage points throughout the race, which kept him in the hunt. He's not completely out of it. He's starting, I think, only like 14 points below the cutoff. So not too bad there. And then late in the race, some pit strategy comes up. Some drivers take 2 tires. Ryan Newman was up at the front of the field taking 2 tires. Some drivers had to take 4, whatever. Cars were coming and going through the field. On the last run, we had a long green flag run to end the race. And at the end, Kevin Harvick jumped out. He jumped out to a really big lead over Keselowski and Truex. So it looked like Harvick was going to win once again. And, it looked like Kevin Harvick was going to start the chase on the right foot. However, his car was going away on the longer haul. He had more of a short run car. Once again, the car was trimmed out, so on fresher tires, it was good. On worn tires, it got a little bit more of a handful than the other cars. Martin Truex Jr. came out of nowhere. He was zero talk all night long, but he came up into contention at the end. He ended up passing Kevin Harvick in the waning laps of the race, ended up winning race number 1 of the playoffs, and has locked his way into the round of 12. Harvick ended up in 2nd. I think Keselowski was 3rd, Chase was 4th, and someone else got 5th. But other Chase drivers, William Byron got a top 10. Alex Bowman got a top 10. Ryan Newman got a top 10. He beat Jimmy Johnson for a 10th by 9 thousandths of a second. So that was crazy. But Kyle Busch at the end of the race, he had rebounded. He was like a lap down all night long. And then everything fell into his lap perfectly. At the end of stage 2, he pitted late, which meant he took the wave around for the caution at the stage. So then he was 1 lap down, still 2 laps down. And then I believe at the next caution, he took another wave around. And then they had an immediate caution after that, so he's back on the lead lap. He drove his way through the field up inside the top 10. I think he was top 5 at one point. Then green flag pit stops happened for the last ones. And then he fell back a little bit. He was back about 7th. And then he was trying to get around the lap car of, who was it? Garrett Smithy, I think it was. So not quite sure what happened because it's kind of a he said, she said type thing. But from Kyle Busch, he said that his spotter said, hey, the 52 is staying high. So Kyle said, I'm going to go to the middle, and the 52 is in the middle of the racetrack. And Kyle hit him hard in the rear end of the car, and it completely messed up the splitter on the 18, which meant he fell back, and I think he finished like 19th. So it wasn't a great night for Kyle Busch at his hometown, but, it was kind of just... It led to some tempers after the race, let's just say that, which led to Kyle Busch versus the world. So in his NBC interview, Kyle Busch basically said, we have drivers out there that have not won at like local, racetracks, haven't won in late miles, haven't won in street stocks or all this, and they're out here racing cup cars at 1.5 mile racetracks. They have no business being out there. So he was legitimately mad about what happened. He tried to keep it calm at the beginning of the interview, but as the interview went on, he got more and more heated, and it kind of erupted in him. And then in the media bullpen, which I believe all the playoff drivers have to do that after the race, if they're still left in the race, obviously. They have to go to that media bullpen for, media members to ask about their night and how their night went, whatever. Kyle Busch was completely furious about it. He had some short, brief answers to a lot of the questions. Someone asked him, were you happy at least that you came back from that damage and you bowed back inside the top 10? He said, not at all. They said, how do you feel about going back to Richmond? And he said, they're like, are you excited about going back to Richmond? He goes, nope, you can't pass there. He was heated after the race. I think someone behind him, whether it was a Toyota representative or his PR person or something, said, hey, maybe you should lighten up a little bit. And they said, what do you want me to do? I'm getting the dumbest effing questions over and over again. I'm doing the best I can. And then he stormed off. So he was not happy after the race for sure. And it's kind of turned Kyle Busch versus the world, especially Kyle Busch versus the underfundeds. A lot of the underfunded people are coming together with the other underfundeds and saying, hey, this is what we do. He hasn't been in our position. He doesn't know what it's like. And that's very true. He doesn't know. However, I can understand why he's mad. Obviously, whether it was a whole thing where spotters just didn't communicate right, I don't know. But overall, it just turned bad for Kyle Busch for sure. He's been in a lot of trouble this week for sure already, and the playoffs have just started. So heading into race 2 of round number 1, Martin Truex Jr. has locked his way in with his win. Kevin Harvick's 52 points above, Joey Logano's 48 above, Kyle Busch is 36 above, Keselowski's 31 above, Chase is 30 above, Denny Hamlin's 29 above. Denny also had a really bad night, so watch for him. I mean, he's kind of fallen down a little bit. Those front 7 have really kind of gotten away. Then 8th on down are kind of closer together. Kyle Larson's only 17 above, William Brown's only 13 above, Blaney's only 12 above, Bowman's 10 above, and Eric Almirola is up 6 above. Ryan Newman is 6 below, Kurt Busch is 14 below, Clint is 21 below, Eric Jones is 26 below. So those drivers really need to try and get going so that they're not really on the bubble. And for Kurt Busch, not all hope is lost. He's had some of the fastest cars this season at different racetracks, so he obviously has some momentum on his side, really. He's had fast race cars. He just had some terrible luck as of late. 14 points he can easily manage in terms of stage points. He has to obviously beat Ryan Newman, Eric Almirola, Alex Bowman, Ryan Blaney, William Byron. I mean, he shouldn't have a problem with beating at least 2 of those drivers. He's beat Ryan Newman all season long. He's beat Almirola all season long, Bowman, Blaney. So he shouldn't have a problem making it into the next round. The problem is he just has to get lucky. He's already, he's had one bad race. He can't have another bad race. You can afford one bad race in round 1 if you are a good driver. As we get later in the rounds, so you have to be perfect for all 3 races in order to make it through to the next round. But so craziness already at Las Vegas for race 1 of the playoffs. But I kind of want to talk about the Gen 6 car in general and the package. Because the package produces restarts, as I said. Over long green flag runs, it is nothing. This package over long green flag runs is just another whole, it's the same thing, kind of, except they're slower and they have bigger spoilers. So, basically, it's, impossible to pass, as opposed to last year where it was hard to pass over a long green run. I still think last year's September Las Vegas race was better than this one. Last year's, though, was really, really good, so I don't know how it would have been able to top it unless it was also really, really, really good. But So this package produces 3 and 4 wide restarts. I mean, we see it all the time. You know, drivers are trying to make moves, whatever. We saw it a lot here at Las Vegas, and it ended up causing some tire rubs and drivers being put into the wall and whatnot. That's why I say that the Gen 6 car, if we're going to have a package like this, we need a race car that is strong and durable, because cars are making contact slightly and they're causing huge tire rubs and causing drivers to blow tires and whatnot. If we're going to have a package that promotes 3 and 4 wide restarts, we need cars that can take that contact. Right now, we have cars that if you hit them barely, it's like, oh my God, you've just ruined my race car. Oh my God, you've caused me a tire rub. And that's not how it should be. Cars should be able to afford some contact to the side and whatnot, not just be like, oh, well, my day's ruined. Thanks a lot. You hit me in the side. Or, well, thanks a lot. I have to come on pit road now because you gave me a tire rub. These cars should be able to handle more contact than what they can handle. The Xfinity cars, the composite bodies, they are better about it. Normally, with the composite bodies, if you have a tire rub, it sometimes clearances itself out. If not, you have a really bad tire rub. So I hope that when the Gen 7 comes around, they do go to composite bodies and they use those, because it seems like it's better for the Xfinity series. Not only is it like, oh, I got the wall, you can come down, it's fine, just kind of pull it out because it's easy. It's very it's very like flexible kind of. So you don't really have to worry about getting into the wall and kind of ruining your whole race car and the aerodynamics. That's another thing. The Gen 6 car sucks in terms of aerodynamics. So much side force. It's so much just downforce on that race car. There's too much. Get rid of the downforce. That car is horrible. Like, the faster we get to Gen 7, as long as it's better than the Gen 6, the faster we get to it, the better. The Gen 6 car just kind of sucks with downforce and all. There's too much on all the parts of the race car. All components of the car have too much downforce. Like, get rid of the downforce. We don't need all this downforce. Downforce is horrible. Downforce for Indy cars and open wheel cars and whatnot. Stock cars don't need downforce. They're fine. But another thing I want to talk about, the last thing I want to talk about, is Las Vegas. So back when it was announced that Las Vegas would be getting 2 races and would be opening the chase for 2018, I was fairly disappointed. I was like, great. We got rid of one reasonable, kind of racetrack, Loudon, which sometimes had good racing, to another 1.5 mile racetrack getting 2 dates. And I was like, of course, we gave another date to 1.5 mile racetrack. But if I'm being honest, this Las Vegas race has been the better Las Vegas race in both years it's been here. So in the 2 years we've had 2 Las Vegas races, the playoff one has been the best one, which is why I say we should just get rid of the West Coast swing at the beginning of the season. Just get rid of Las Vegas from it. I think Las Vegas only needs 1 race each season, and I think that 1 race can come at the beginning of the playoffs. Obviously, next season it's going to be a little bit later in the playoffs, but still the same thing. It's hotter at this point in Las Vegas, which makes for better racing overall. Races where drivers have to drive their cars and all that produces some good racing, which is kind of why we saw what we saw with, cars being trimmed out so they were hard to drive. That produces better racing, and that's why I think that them having this Las Vegas race in September, when it's a little bit hotter out in Las Vegas as opposed to March where it's cooler, it definitely works better because the cars are hard to drive and it just produces better racing overall. So in my opinion, get rid of that first Las Vegas race. Just give us that second one. We only need 1 Las Vegas race each season. Just like we only need 1 Texas race and 1 Kansas race. We don't need a lot of them. But I think that's it. Next race is Richmond Saturday night, short track racing in the Chase. We'll see if it goes any better than the one earlier in the season where you could not pass. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys for the next video.